I did my paper on specific and very famous person in world history, and that was Julius Caesar. And now, what I basically diagnosed him with is narcolepsy or narcissism, for the simple fact that that's the perfect type of personality disorder to give to a person with that much power. But before I get to that, I will have to talk about who is Julius Caesar and why is he so famous in the first place. Basically, he was born around the 100 BC in Rome. Well known, but he was not a rich family. His family wasn't rich. As a young man, he did leave Rome to join the military, the service in around Asia and Sicilia. When the dictator Sully died, he returned and began his political career as a prosecuting advocate. Right there, you're starting to get the sign. Then he traveled to the roads, philosophical studies, trying to understand about, the philosophy of life, war, and everything about that in that matter. Then, during some time in the military, he was actually kidnapped by pirates, and he convinced his own captor to raise his ransom, then organize a naval force, capture the pirates, and then put them to death. See, right there, a normal person cannot comprehend and understand how to get away from a situation like that. But this amazing man named Julius Caesar figured a way out to basically kill his own captors. Then he held a government position under Pompey and was elected consul in 60 BC. In 59 BC, he also became governor of Gaul in Spain. Gaul, as is today, is France. And in 55 BC, he began an attempted invasion of Britain. 3 years later, in 52 BC, he defeated a union of Gauls. So, basically, he crossed the naval, battled the British, conquered Gaul, which is France now. After his former ally, Pompey Caesar, went to Egypt, and the famous pharaoh at the time was Cleopatra, and him and her actually had a child named Caesarion. Now, with a man like this, dashing and charming and all that, this is signs of narcissism. However, arrogance and ambition brought him to unpopularity of suspicion of his peers, and as you know, in 46 BC, he was stabbed and killed by his Senate. Now, the great thing about men with power is you have the whole world looking at you. Bad thing is, you have the world looking at you, and a lot of people don't trust you, and sadly that's what happened to Julius Caesar. At the end of his life, he was stabbed and killed. But he's still renowned as one of the greatest military leader in Roman history, but also was given too much power at the time. Now, to better understand what narcissism is, I will explain it. Narcissism is a personality disorder, is a mental disorder which people have an inflated sense of their own importance and deep need for admiration and lack for empathy for others. But behind this massive ultra confidence lies a fatigued self-esteem that vulnerable to slightest criticism. As is for a lot of world leaders, once they felt threatened, they will take action upon the people that make fun of them. And this happens a lot back in the Roman Empire days, and even into countries in Africa to these days too. A lot of leaders had to have narcissism because with any showability of weakness and vulnerability, you can't do that as a normal person like me. And then narcissism, by definition, is a self-centered, overconfident in their own abilities. Julius Caesar was very confident in his ability to conquer practically all of Europe and try to expand more until his death. A person with high self-esteem is confident and charming. He seduced the most beautiful woman in that time period, Cleopatra, and impregnate her with his child. Now, not a lot of normal men can do that, especially to the last pharaoh of Egypt. Narcissism has inflated views of their talents and abilities and all about themselves. They don't care as much about others. If you were to look Julius Caesar, he was charming. He had a child with the most beautiful woman in the world. And at that time, it was Cleopatra. He survived countless wars without breaking, like mentally breaking. He did not mentally break, as I discussed earlier, with one goal, to control. But many leaders who tend to have narcissism allow that to be their downfall. Their passion for power, their passion to control. Yes, he might have been a great war leader. People felt threatened because he showed no empathy towards the people that he slaughtered. So, as we discussed this figure in history, it shows us that with great power comes with great responsibility. Sadly, with ego that huge and power throughout the world, you tend to develop some bad traits. And those traits can make you do rash things and allow your guard to be down. And that is the sad story about Julius Caesar. And the sad story about narcissism. And many world leaders today, and I've looked online, and they tend to say the same thing. To become a leader, you have to be narcissistic. You have to have that passion, that goal, that tendency not to really care too much. And that's also in the book of The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli. A lot of those statements that he made were perfect for narcissistic people, because that's the only way to rule not just a nation, but for Julius Caesar, an empire, and possibly the world. Who would have known if he wouldn't have got sad? But that's my presentation on Julius Caesar with narcissism. Thank you, and I'm Benjamin Figueroa.